All right, this video is to take what we worked on previously on making our name or a little phrase or whatever for the top of our keepsake box. I'm going to show you what you're going to be doing on the certain computers that you can actually make these. So I have my design and it's all created, and it's also here in the folder ready to go. We got the SVG, we converted that. Now it's time to put our file onto the VCarve software. So only the computers that are actually marked with VCarve can use this software. It looks like this, VCarve Desktop 100, or actually 10.0, sorry. We may update them to 10.5 or 11 when that comes, but just know you're looking for that logo. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And this is actually the software. I'll do that later. This is actually the software we're using to create our designs, take the designs you created, put it into the software, and this is what works on the CNC machines. So we program it on here to work so it can speak to the machine. Then we have to go to the machine and run it. So let's get this ready. So the first thing you do is create a new file. And from here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up everything here in the job setups. Single-sided. The other thing that we have to do, and you can see it set up here from my previous design, this is going to be the top piece. Now, according to our direction sheet, which I will pull up here, our pieces are going to be, oops, that's what it's going to look like. Our pieces are listed to be the top 8 inches by 5.5 inches wide. So what I did is I took a 1/2 inch off each one to make sure there's plenty of space on all the sides. So I'm going to say the width is 7.5 inches, and instead of 5.5, I'm going to say 5 inches high, and then check the width of your wood. My wood and most of the wood that we have is at 3/4 or 75 hundredths of an inch, but I just want to make sure you double check that before you continue. We want to make sure we have that as 3/4 of an inch. Everything's in inches, not millimeters, so make sure that's clicked. Material surface, we're always going to start the 0 position in the bottom left. That's what we always want to create, so we keep that there, and then all that stuff can stay the same. So when you actually adjust it, your image space here will change to the size that you're going to be using. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to hit OK, and what I need to do is insert that vector, that SVG file that we created with our name or our phrase on it. I'm going to go here where it says Import Vectors, it's the fourth one in, and I'm going to go to the downloads where I have it saved, and there it is, box top name SVG. You can see here that it only opens up the files that it allows, so that's how we do SVG. So the first time I did this, all I had was a JPEG, and I'm like, why does that not work? What's going on? So I looked down here, and I looked at all the different types of files, and I saw SVG. Okay, so that's how I knew to make sure we changed. I'm going to open that up, and where'd it go? Where is that image? Well, the image is probably pretty large, and it doesn't really define that it's going to sit on there. So if I zoom out, I'm going to find our image sitting here. So here's my image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mouse, I'm going to highlight the whole thing, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to drag it up into our wood piece here. So now it's showing up on our piece. And for some reason, the border part didn't turn out very well. And that's okay. If I don't like it, I can just click on individual pieces and delete them. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to delete those and just keep my name on it. All I want is my name. So the next thing I want to do is make sure that it's centered. So if we look here from the top, it's 0, and over here is 8. So in between the 0 and 8 would be 4, but remember, we have a 7.5 inch piece of wood. That's what I did my marking at, is 7.5 inches. So actually 7.5 divided by 2 is 3 3/4. So we want to have the center of my image, so I'm going to highlight it all. We want to have the center of the image be at 3 3/4. So let me highlight this. Oops. And I'm going to try to get the center piece here, right there, to be at 3 3/4. So right there. So I'm just going to use the arrows. I'm going to drag over until I have the center there. So that's good. Now, the other piece here is the height piece, and it goes from 0 to 5 inches. So halfway between 0 and 5 is 2.5. And 2.5 is actually right here. So I'm not too far off. I just need to, and I can use the arrows again, bring it down just a little bit. There we go. So that's centered. That's all there is to it. So now that I have that, before I move on anywhere else, I'm going to make sure I save it. And I want to save it, same spot. I'm going to save it as my name, Singer, and then box top. Okay. Now what we have to do is we have to set this vector and make sure it's ready to go onto the CNC machine. So what I'm going to do is move my weird looking face over here. And I'm going to go up here where it says toolpaths. I'm going to click on toolpaths, and this is where we can do all the creative things. So we can do a profile toolpath, pocket toolpath. We can do a drilling toolpath if we had a bunch of holes to drill. But the one that we're going to want is this VCarve, because that's the V-shaped blade that we're going to use that spins on our machine. So I'm going to use the VCarve. And again, the depth we're going to start at is going to be 0. So that means it's starting right on the edge of the wood. Okay. The one thing we have to do before we do anything else is make sure that our vector is highlighted, which it is. It's a different color. Make sure we have the right tool bit. We'll tell you which tool bit. We'll have it on the board, or we'll give you some information about which one it is. Right now, I have a 60-degree V bit in the machine, a 1/4 inch width, or 1/4 inch diameter, excuse me. That's all set. So I'm just going to make sure I click on that one and click select. And then the next thing, we're going to use the start points there. And the next thing we have to do is scroll down to the bottom here, and we're going to have to name ours. So I want to, it's actually going to create a different document. So we want to create this document name to be the same as the one we have up here where it says Singer Box Top. So I'm going to do Singer Box Top. Okay. And then I'm going to click Calculate. And what it does is it's going to show us the path that it's going to take. So this is where the machine will run the laser, and it's going to start here. And then it's going to move on and on. And I actually can, this is the cool thing, and you're going to want to enjoy doing this. You're going to want to watch it to make sure it all works properly. So again, we're not using oak. I'm going to be using pine, so I'm going to change it to look like pine. The color toolpath, you can give it a different color so we can see what it looks like at the end. I'm going to use red. And then here we can preview the selected toolpath to see where it's going. I like to slow it down so it's going slow and I can actually see it moving. Now, why is this important? Well, because when we set up the machine, we're going to want to know where it starts and how high and to the left and right that it goes. We already know that it's going to kind of sit somewhere in the center. We need to know like the height and the width of it. As long as we can know where the starting point is and all that information, when we set it on the CNC machine, we'll know where the laser, or not the laser, the blade or the bit's going to go and where it's going to start. So we want to see the path too and make sure that everything's going to come out right, because what you're going to see here is this program is setting up the G code for the CNC machine. So it's literally written the code of you're going to be doing all this work, and it tells this real simple machine and a router to go to all these spots and do what it tells it to do. So all the work really to do CNCing is right here. You have finished it. This was the hardest part. The easy part is actually running it on the machine, but you're going to think it's the opposite, trust me. So let's go ahead and hit play, and we're going to see where it goes. You can see that the blade started down here, and now it went up here, and you can see how it's cutting. It cuts out the outside, and then it cuts out the middle, and it jumps around, and I don't know. There's got to be some reason why it does that it doesn't do all the letters in order, but we can see how it's running. So this is kind of cool. It'll show you all the little parts and how it's going to cut and where the bit's going to go and how far down it is and when it comes up, and it creates that V shape obviously, so the center is deep. If I want to speed up the animation, I can. So it's going to go here, does the rad, then it goes back, and then that's what it should look like in its depth. It doesn't actually come out red. Remember, I just picked that so I could see that what it looks like. And that's what it's going to look like. If there's any changes you'd want to make at this point, we can go back and change them before we send it off, but I'm good with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit close, and then the last thing I have to do is save this file. Now the file we're going to have on here is a .tap file. So I go here to where it says save toolpath, and the saving the toolpath, we're going to save it onto a USB. So save toolpath for now. We'll give you USBs when you're ready, and we'll take them off the computer. But for now, you can just put them either on the desktop or in the downloads, somewhere easy for us to find. I like just putting it on the desktop. You can see now it says Singer Box Top because I named it that, .tap. I'm going to save it on the desktop. And when I minimize this and we look at the desktop, here is the file, Singer box.tap. That we'll be putting onto a USB drive, and we will be sending that over to the laser engraver to get engraved later. Really easy. I'll show you real quick how we put these onto a USB drive. This is a USB drive, one of them we'll be using. We plug it into the computer on the side of the monitor. It'll open up. Now this one already has some stuff on it, no big deal. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this file, we're going to click on it, and we're going to drag it over here. And there it is on the USB. It's still on the desktop. We've just made a copy of it and put it onto the USB drive. So now I can close the USB. I can pull out the USB from the computer, and then this now has the information we're going to use on our CNC machine, which we'll be dealing with later. We're not going to have to pull it off and put it on the USB until we're ready to do all that work. So remember what computer you had it on. And that's our video to make sure we know how to go ahead and get our name on our cover of our keepsake box. We'll see you next